Good afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this special show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, we will have a regular guest, somebody that you know very, very well, join us on this show. But this show is all about the topic of Jordan Zemura, who, of course, has made the decision to move to Udinese. What we are discussing, though, is not so much the player. We do appreciate everything he has done for AFC Bournemouth. However, what we want to discuss is the way it's been done. Is it like the Fraser situation years ago? We'll discuss all. But without much ado, what we'll do is we'll bring in our regular on the show. Here's Mr. Matt Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
And you as well, mate, and you as well. So, Jordan Zamora. At the start of the season, I thought that he would take to the Premier League like a duck to water. Personally, I don't think he's done that, but he's dug his heels in, and of course, this news that's come around the other day is it's just so disappointing considering the faith and the investment we've made in this player.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely spot on. It's very, very disappointing um, news that, but I think, which was, with the way things have been going, it was always going to come to this. Just disappointed with how early, really, the news has come out.
Mhm.
Um, Fair enough if the player's going to move on, but I just think it's a little bit of a shows a little bit of disrespect to the football club, to the fan base,
Mhm.
and more importantly, to your fellow pros.
You do mention the disrespect tag, and I always feel that there's what is loyalty in football nowadays, because we are used to players like Steve Fletcher. Um, the
Mm.
likes of Steve Cook, who was throwing his body on the line, even though, and that wasn't his decision that he wanted to go. It was at the time, it was Scott Parker's. Of course, Jordan Zamora isn't a local lad. He grew up in Lambeth. He started out his youth career at QPR and then went to Charlton Athletic before he did make the move to the South Coast. But we've given him his chance on this stage, and I just feel it's so disappointing how it's all come about. Did you see it going this way?
Yeah, I think I said to yourself maybe a few weeks ago that after the Anthony deal, that the Zamora one probably wouldn't be far behind, and then each week it just looked more unlikely, didn't it? So, um, yeah, I think it was always going to come to this. I mean, a few weeks ago on Cherry Picking, we were discussing the clubs that were linked with him. West Ham, Leeds. There was a lot of clubs circling around, wasn't there? So,
Yeah.
am I shocked? Am I surprised? No, no. I've got to say, I'm not.
I honestly thought when Anthony signed that deal that Zamora would follow. They're good friends. They know how each other plays, and I think that Zamora isn't. He's half the player when he's not got Anthony in the side, and I think Anthony, likewise, you know, struggles a bit when Zamora's not by his side. I think Anthony though is adapting more to that though,
Yeah, yeah,
having
yeah. You're absolutely spot on with that because, sorry for interrupting you, but I thought that recently where Anthony's played a lot more without him. Probably this season, like last season, you
yeah,
could guarantee they'd be together on that left hand side.
yeah,
Whereas this season, they haven't played as much together, have they? And
no,
you're absolutely spot on. Anthony has adapted to it better. Um, for me, and this was the same with the championship. Zamora is fantastic at going forward. And
hmm
I think eventually he'll be more developed into more of an attacking player than a defensive player. Sometimes he is questionable
yeah,
defensively.
hmm
Um, but in terms of going forward, he's fantastic. But you're absolutely spot on. I think Anthony would be fine without Zamora. I mean, this time last year when there was a bit of talk about both players being on, these contracts that they were on at the time, um, and that the club were about to offer them new ones.
Yeah.
Um, then at that point, I, was looking at it thinking, well, if I was a manager of another club and I had a tricky left-hand side, two perfect players to sign together.
Hmm.
But obviously, fortunately for us, Anthony has put pen to paper. But yeah, Zamora, great little player. Would love to have stayed with the club, but
Yeah.
obviously it's not to be, is it?
No, no. And it was announced, and this is the bit that really does irk me. It was announced a minute after um, Zamora had put out a tweet. And the tweet was basically saying that and giving his full support for our team. Then he's retweeted Udinese's tweet. Um, Personally, what we'll do is we'll dissect the three parties in this. So, well, four parties effectively: the football club, Zamora, Udinese, and his agent. Of course, a while back, I interviewed Beckham's agent, and I asked the question with regards to Ryan Fraser: was he being influenced by his agent to actually not sign that contract extension during COVID? And Andy Bennell said he doesn't think, he knows that was the situation, and that's coming from the agent of one of the best players that England has ever produced.
Mm.
Now, without a shadow of a doubt, I think the same has happened here. Our agents just get it because years ago we never had this worry. When we was in League Two, we never really had this worry. Yes, players had agents, but at the same time, the players could make their own minds up.
Yeah, I
At this
mean,
point, it just
yeah,
doesn't feel like Zamora's, had his say on this.
I think in some respects you probably are right. I would say it's more of an influence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, like you say, back in like the days of League Two, I mean, the players that had agents,
Hmm.
it would have been minimal anyway, I'd
Yeah.
imagine. Because the agents are there for the cut of the signing on fee, and you know,
Yeah.
it it's. I think personally, he's been poorly advised in some respects of the
Hmm.
way this has been handled, or if it's been out of his hands and it's been handled in this way, it's a little bit embarrassing for the player, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
I mean, fair play. He's going to make the move. Great. I mean, if that was at the end of the year and it was announced like that, then fair play. That's the right way to do it. But I just think it's a kick in the teeth for the football club that another football club has announced a player that's still currently under contract at another football club.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. Maybe it's happened before. Has it happened before? I don't know. Um, you
I
know.
think it has, but it's never really happened to us. See, this is where my main gripe falls. Yes, players are allowed to negotiate deals outside of that contract window. So that transfer window, they're allowed to negotiate the deals. That's fine. That is their prerogative. They can make that decision. But to announce it whilst we're in a relegation battle is just downright disrespectful from Udinese. They're the ones that I'm most frustrated with because they're a club that, well, I've had a look at and it baffles me. It baffles me. They are safe in Serie A. However, this is the extent of their form. So they have had 3 wins since they beat Hellas Verona on the 3rd of October. They've had 3 wins in all competitions. Also, when you look at that, Hellas Verona and Sampdoria themselves have had more wins in that time than Udinese have. So I can't see the logic why Jordan Zemura has gone to this football club at this time for what is also reported as well less money than what this football club was offering him. It just doesn't make any sense, and I think it just Udinese have just shown a complete lack of respect to everybody, really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it, the thing is with the agent side of things. Now, agents would normally, push players to where the money is. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, the agent has pushed the player, or has obviously negotiated on behalf of the player a deal that is less money, which says to me he must be getting some sign-on fee,
Mm,
um, which obviously the agent be getting a cut off. Um, there's rumors going around today in the last few days. That he's been offered 36 grand a week at Bournemouth.
yeah.
Apparently, he's not happy with that, and it's not enough. With the position that the club is in at the moment, you know, what kind of money does he expect a left back to earn?
Well, exactly.
And a young left back. Okay, we keep saying he's a young left back. In fairness to the guy, he's 23 years old. So, I mean,
Mm,
he's not as. I mean, I look at him sometimes. I think he's a lot younger, and I forget he's 23. So, he obviously feels that he should be earning more money. But then again, you're hearing from Udinese that he's getting paid £14,000. So it's a very, very strange situation. If it was a case that he'd gone there for 60 grand a week,
mm.
okay, yeah, he's gone there to earn more money, but to go there to earn less money, it's got to be a footballing decision, surely.
You'd think so.
You
You'd
see what
think
I mean?
so.
Because
It's
why,
bizarre because he would get his, and without a doubt, he would get his game at this football club. He might not start every game, but there is room for improvement. And we've seen with Ryan Fraser that the grass isn't always greener. You
no,
know, do you think that this is potentially worse than the Fraser situation? This,
no, no. I the reason why I say that is because the main reason is that I don't think at any point the player has actually refused to play for the football club,
yeah,
regardless to what's going on. The actual announcement of the player signing for the football club is more than likely out of the player's hand.
yes,
I would say that is obviously the football club, possibly his agent, that has obviously gone and done that.
hmm,
Um, where he's at fault, I would probably say, is the timing of the tweet for supporting the rest of the
yes,
lads, and rightly so. Great tweet to put out, but then you retweet a minute later a picture of you in a new shirt.
yeah.
Uh,
It just
that's the
seems
bit for me which is naughty. But in
mm,
terms of the player himself, I mean, there's no way on this earth I would compare this to the Ryan Fraser situation. Fraser knew the situation at the time. Um,
yeah,
he only had to sign a small term contract just to see him through. He refused to do that. So that for me is refusing to support your teammates, refusing to play for the people that pay you, refusing to play for the fans. You know, Jay-Z's been moved out of the ranks. He's been put into the development
mm,
squad. Um, and I think that's the right way to manage the situation. Obviously, the player's not going to be here. Um, they're going to plan on without him. And I agree with that. But I don't think at any point has he ever turned around and said, I ain't playing. If it comes out that he has, um, and he's refused to play for the club, then yeah, you can compare it to the Ryan Fraser situation. But I think as it stands, there's been none of that.
no,
he's not been picked by Gary O'Neill. I think that's probably been instructed from the likes of Neil Blake and Richard Hughes, who
Yes.
possibly, who would have been monitoring the situation
Hmm.
alongside the board, and it's probably been a decision of the hierarchy to instruct Gary O'Neill to probably remove him from the squad. And to be fair, I agree with that decision.
Hmm. Well, of course, there is another elephant in the room with regards to signing for Udinese, and that is who they are linked with. So, of course, the owner of Udinese is a Gianpaolo Pozzo. Of course, the Pozzo family are in charge of a certain Watford, and there's been a lot of activity between those two clubs. Is it likely that Jordan Zemura will be donning a Watford shirt at the start of next season?
Um, you've seen stranger things happen, but
Mhm,
uh, possibly not.
mhm,
Um, I think it would probably been more likely if Watford had been promoted to to the Premier League.
mhm.
I don't think they're doing particularly well, are they? I mean, they've had a manager
No.
36 days who's already under fire, so and it is under a lot of pressure already in the press, and is looking like the board aren't happy with him after 36 days.
Mhm.
So anything can happen, can't it?
Yeah.
I would probably say probably not that quick, but you know, further down the line, if things ain't working out in Italy, would he be sent out on loan to Watford or transferred to Watford? Who knows? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. And it wouldn't be the first time that kind of thing has happened, is it? So, um, obviously, we've seen it with players like, for example, Frank Lampard, wasn't it? He signed for New York City and then spent, what,
Yeah.
4 or 5 months on loan at Man City. So, things like that has happened before. Could well happen again.
Mhm. Playing devil's advocate here. Of course, I personally think that Gary O'Neill and the club have done everything correct. You don't want a player that is negotiating a move away in the middle of a relegation battle. You know, integrating with the rest of the squad and potentially bringing those players down as well. But here is the spin question: if that hadn't have happened and he wasn't put with the development squad, would this have still gone through, or would this, could we have convinced his mind, turned his mind, kept him involved, and Udinese would hopefully have eventually gone away?
No, no. I think this is the. I think obviously the club must have been aware that he's been negotiating with them,
Yeah.
and that's why I think they've taken the early decision to make it known that the club are putting him into the development squad to train until the end of the season
Hmm.
because they knew this news. Possibly they knew this news was going to come out.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know where the football club really stand on stopping the news coming out. There's probably nothing really they could do about it. So in preparation for that, they've made the right decision, in my personal opinion, to
Yeah.
put the player into the development squad. Which is a shame. That's the biggest thing for me. That's the shame it's ended this way because
Mm.
there is another high profile player that's out of contract, who's playing his absolute skin out at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and is still putting in performance after performance and still has a passion for the football club. But we don't know if he's going to be signing. We don't know if there's a contract agreement with another club for that player. If that's the case and that player's gone about it completely the right way,
Yes.
um, and his mission is to see Bournemouth stay in the Premier League whether he's here or not. Um, so that's the disappointing thing, is that you know Jay Z isn't available to be picked and
Hmm.
help the players out on the pitch. because if things were done in a proper way, in a way that we would all like, then he would still be getting selected every week, and he would be battling on with the rest of the squad to try and keep his football club in the Premier. Um, Unfortunately, that's the sad thing. It'd been nice to see him on the pitch to give him a farewell,
Hmm.
in some respects. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to be like that now, is it? But then
No.
again, you could look at it from this point of view as well. I mean, I was in the club shop today, um, chatting to a friend of mine in there, and there was still Zamora shirts being printed.
Mm.
And
Well,
I said to my friend in there, I said, are you still printing Zamora shirts? And he was telling me that they printed several this morning. So, you know, people people were obviously still getting their last chance to get his shirt number and name on the shirt. So whether they're going to try and get him signed or whatever before he leaves as a little keepsake, who knows? But I that's one reason why I don't think we could compare it to the Ryan Fraser situation.
yeah, no, I do. You know, I do feel that, it's, although we've been let down as fans, and although I guess it is ultimately the player's decision, it is the way it's happened. And of course, Udinese is a big part of that. The agent is a big part of that. Zamora, yes, he's probably guilty of retweeting that tweet. And, I think the football club have done everything right. I think the football club have done everything right to protect the rest of the players. Um, because the last thing we want to do, especially in the middle of a relegation battle, and that is what really irks me about what Udinese have done. Would they want us, if the shoe was on the other foot, would they want the same to be done to them? Because looking at their run and how they're doing in Serie A, if they don't pick it up next season with Zamora in their team, they could well be in a relegation battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And they wouldn't want the same situation to happen to them, would they? Let's be
No,
fair. Definitely not. Um, yeah, I mean, look at the club themselves. I mean, this is another way of maybe looking at it. Would you say, or would you think that the player has bettered himself by moving to this football club, or because I don't see it as is it a sidestep? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're going from the best league in the world. Well, hopefully, still be in the league next season.
yeah,
But even the championship was still a very very good competitive hard division. So is this a sidestep? I would love to understand the reasoning to go into that particular football club. There's got to be it's
it,
got to be a footballing decision. There's got to be a footballing decision somewhere along there, surely. It's
it
not
just
financial, is it?
no,
Let's
it just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense because the only thing that Udinese, if we stay in the Premier League, and Udinese look like they're going to stay in Serie A because of their good run at the start of the season, where they did manage to get themselves up to fourth. The only thing that Udinese have got over this football club is the size of their stadium. They've got a 25,000 seater stadium, but he is currently playing in the best league in the world. Serie A, yes, I remember, on Channel 4 years ago, there was the Italia program. And, you used to marvel at it at that time. Italian football has gone downhill quite a lot from that. And, if he's taken into account, or the agent's taken into account, right, okay, bigger club, because a bigger stadium, you know, why wouldn't you say, right, okay, stay in the Premier League, go to Brighton? go to Brentford, go to somebody like that. You know, but a football club isn't bigger because of the size of its stadium. Sunderland are in the Championship. Sheffield Wednesday are in League One. Bradford are in League Two, and they've all got bigger stadiums by quite a bit than we have. Um, I
Yeah.
just it just does not make any sense. And like you say, there's got to be some reasoning behind it. Um, and to be honest, if that decision is, or if that reason is okay, you come to Udinese and you're loaned out to Watford for a year, I think that is the most ridiculous reason for going to a football club.
Well, let's see, it's happened before, so it may that may well be on the cards. But it'd be interesting to. I mean, I will still keep an eye on his
Yeah,
career because as a player, I really like the player. I think he's my kind of fullback. I like attacking
yeah.
fullbacks. And it's been a real pleasure to watch the guy. It really has. It's
Mhm.
just a real shame it's ended like this. It really is.
And he's a nice bloke as well. I have, been lucky enough to meet him in person, and this is no way, we all hate Zamora situation. This is no
Uh,
way that.
no, absolutely not.
You see Twitter and you see, tons and tons and tons of the stuff, but this is more of Udinese, being, well, it's completely disrespectful. The agent, personally, I think, has ill-advised our football player, and I personally think if he was to stay at this football club, he would eventually be moulded into a player who could go to a top team, a Man United, and Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, Man City, or wherever else he wants to go to. If he wants to go to Italy, why don't you go and play for Juventus or AC Milan rather than Udinese? But at that point, hopefully he would have developed enough to do just that.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I mean, I've literally just seen here. There's something come through from Gary O'Neill on the
Mhm,
situation in his press conference today, and Gary has said he started to answer the question by, "I think you guys know the most of it now, if not all of it. I think it's all out, and the club have always been really aligned in how we see it. Jordan will move on and play for another club next season. So, as always, my focus is on the group and making sure that everybody's ready for the weekend.
mhm.
Um, with Zamura's future now clear, O'Neill was then asked about him returning to the first team picture, to which Gary responded, "No, I think the club we're
Mhm.
very realigned in it. We've made a decision, and that's the best at this moment for Jordan to train with the under 21s, and that will remain until it doesn't." So, in other words, that is basically Jay Z with the under 21s until the end of the season.
Which is a shame. Which is a shame because he is, like I say, a nice guy. He is a model professional when he's on the pitch. Unfortunately, I think he's been misinformed. I think Udinese have, done something which, has been really, really disappointing. Um, it should have been managed in such a better way, and hopefully this is a blot on his career, and hopefully he will go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we're all a bit bitter with the way things have come out,
Mhm.
but I wish all the player all the best. Um, and I will definitely keep an eye on his future career.
Yeah, myself likewise as well. Myself likewise. But yeah, Matt, thank you again for coming on for this special show. And hopefully, fingers crossed, the next one will be a lot better news. Of course, we got the preview yet to come, but hopefully the next one will be a lot better news when we've surprised Arnaut Danjuma at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Still can't get used to calling it that when you've called it White Hart Lane for
I'd
years.
imagine. I imagine a lot of Spurs fans still call it White Hart Lane because it's still in the same place, and it's just bigger.
It is.
But yeah, let's hope. Let's hope that on the back of the developments this week, that we can have a good result on Saturday, and yeah, carry on building towards the end of the season.
Exactly. Arnie isn't exactly getting lots of game time as well at Spurs, so you never know. Well, that's a conversation for another day, whether or not we would go back in for him, whether the club would even consider doing that after the Everton situation as well.
Mm, mm. Probably not, but let's
No,
see.
well, definitely. Well, again, mate, thank you so much, and yeah, we will be catching up very, very soon, no doubt. And thank you everybody for joining us on this show. Please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please also do have your say on this news with regards to Jordan Zemura. What you can do is you can actually submit your own video for display on our Cherries Extra channel. All you need to do is record the video, upload it to WeTransfer is always the best place, and then send it to UTCIADAFCB at gmail.com. That again is UTCIADAFCB at gmail.com. We'll use all submissions that you do send over to us. We do promise that. Until the next video, up the cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you so much for joining us.